Hello, and welcome to this gentle space we're creating together tonight. As you settle into wherever you are, whether that's your bed, a comfortable chair, or any place where you can simply be, I want you to know that you're exactly where you need to be right now. Maybe you're lying here tonight because something about pride has been weighing on your mind. Perhaps you've noticed how good it feels to be right, to stand your ground, to show the world that you're strong and capable and don't need anyone's help. And yet, maybe you've also noticed something else, a quiet ache, a sense that all this strength and independence has somehow left you feeling more alone than powerful. If that resonates with you, you're not alone in feeling this way. Pride is one of the most misunderstood emotions we carry. Society tells us that pride is either entirely good, be proud of your accomplishments, take pride in your work, or entirely bad, associated with arrogance and selfishness. But the truth is far more nuanced. And tonight we're going to explore pride not as a character flaw to be ashamed of, but as a complex protective mechanism that once served you well, even if it's now creating some challenges in your life. I want you to know that there's no judgment here about the ways pride has shown up in your life. You don't need to feel guilty about times you've chosen being right over being close to someone. You don't need to apologize for the walls you've built, or the independence you've fiercely guarded. Tonight is about understanding, not fixing. It's about compassion, not correction. As we begin this journey together, I'm going to give you some gentle permissions, not because you need my permission for anything, but because sometimes it helps to hear these truths spoken aloud. You have permission tonight to be proud of your strengths while also acknowledging their costs. You have permission to have built walls that once protected you, even if they now feel more like barriers. You have permission to want both independence and connection, even when those desires seem to contradict each other. You have permission to discover that vulnerability isn't weakness, that needing others doesn't diminish your strength, and that being wrong sometimes doesn't erase all the times you've been brilliantly, beautifully right. You have permission to be human, to have moments of uncertainty, to sometimes need support, to occasionally make mistakes without those mistakes defining your worth. Most importantly, you have permission to explore these ideas without having to change anything tonight. This is simply about understanding, about seeing yourself with clearer, kinder eyes. You have permission to feel proud of how far you've come, how much you've accomplished on your own, how many challenges you faced with courage and determination. And you simultaneously have permission to wonder if there might be other ways of being strong, ways that include others, ways that allow for interdependence, ways that honor both your capability and your humanity. Now, let's talk about what we mean when we say pride feels powerful but leaves you alone. Think about the last time you felt truly proud, not the warm glow of accomplishment, but that fierce, protective pride that flares up when you feel challenged or threatened. Maybe it was when someone questioned your judgment, or when you felt like you had to prove yourself, or when someone offered help that felt more like pity than support. In that moment, pride probably did feel powerful. It straightened your spine, sharpened your mind, gave you the energy to stand tall and show the world what you're made of. Pride is like an internal battery that surges with energy when we need to defend ourselves, prove our worth, or maintain our sense of dignity. It's the feeling that says, I don't need anyone. I can handle this myself. I'm strong enough, smart enough, capable enough. And you know what? Much of the time, that's absolutely true. You probably are strong enough, smart enough, capable enough. Pride isn't lying to you about your abilities. It's actually quite accurate about your strengths. The challenge is that pride, like many protective emotions, doesn't know when to turn off. It doesn't distinguish between moments when you truly need to stand alone and moments when you could benefit from standing with others. Pride also doesn't differentiate between external threats and internal insecurities. When someone offers genuine help, Pride might interpret it as an attack on your competence. When someone shares a different perspective, pride might hear it as criticism of your intelligence. When someone expresses concern for your well-being, pride might translate it as pity or condescension. This hypervigilance served you well at some point in your life. It protected you from real threats to your dignity, your safety, or your sense of self. But now, perhaps, you're finding that this same protective mechanism is working overtime, defending you from connections that could actually nourish and support you. It's like having a security system that was installed to protect your house from intruders, but now it's so sensitive that it goes off every time a friend tries to visit. This is where we start to understand pride, not as a personality trait, but as a sophisticated psychological defense mechanism. Carl Jung, the renowned psychologist, wrote extensively about how our strengths and our shadows are often two sides of the same coin. Your pride isn't separate from your other wonderful qualities, your intelligence, your resilience, your independence. It's intimately connected to them. The same qualities that make you remarkably self-sufficient can also make it difficult to let others in. Jung would say that your pride developed as a necessary response to your life circumstances. Perhaps you learned early that depending on others could lead to disappointment, that showing weakness could invite criticism, that being wrong could result in shame or rejection. In response, you developed a fierce inner strength, a reliable sense of self that didn't depend on others' approval or support. This was incredibly wise of you. At some point in your life, this level of self-reliance was not just helpful, it was essential. Pride became your ally in developing confidence, in trusting your own judgment, in building the resilience you needed to navigate challenges. It taught you that you could count on yourself, that your mind was sharp, that your capabilities were real and valuable. Brené Brown, in her research on shame and vulnerability, discovered something fascinating about pride. She found that pride often emerges as a response to shame, not conscious shame, but that deeper, more primitive feeling that we're not enough as we are. Pride becomes the armor we wear to protect that tender, vulnerable place inside us that fears being seen as inadequate, needy, or weak. But here's what's important to understand. That vulnerable place isn't weak. It's human. It's the part of you that knows, deep down, that connection and belonging are fundamental human needs. It's the part that recognizes we're social beings who thrive in relationship with others. Pride tries to protect that need by convincing you that you don't have it, but the need remains. This is why pride can feel so powerful in the moment. It's protecting something precious, but leave you feeling alone over time. The isolation that sometimes comes with pride isn't a punishment for being too strong or too independent. It's a natural consequence of a system that was designed to keep you safe from emotional harm, but that now might be keeping you safe from emotional connection as well. It's like wearing armor that once protected you in battle, but now makes it difficult to embrace the people who love you. Tonight, we're going to explore this paradox with curiosity rather than judgment. We're going to understand how pride developed as a response to your life experiences, how it's been both a gift and a burden, and how you can honor its protective wisdom while also creating space for the connection and belonging that your heart truly craves. We're going to look at pride not as something to eliminate, but as something to understand and work with. Like a good friend who's been overly protective, we're going to appreciate what pride has done for you while also helping it understand that not every situation requires its full defensive response. As we prepare to dive deeper into this exploration, I want you to take a moment to appreciate the courage it takes to even consider these questions. It takes a special kind of bravery to examine the very mechanisms that have kept you feeling safe and strong. The fact that you're here, willing to look at these patterns with honesty and compassion, speaks to a deeper wisdom within you, a wisdom that knows growth and healing are possible. This wisdom recognizes that you can be both strong and connected, both capable and willing to receive support, both independent and interdependent. It knows that examining your patterns doesn't mean abandoning your strengths, but rather understanding them more deeply so you can use them more consciously. Let yourself settle a little more deeply now. Feel the surface supporting you. Notice the rhythm of your breath. Allow your body to release any tension it's been holding. Notice how your body knows how to breathe without your conscious control. How your heart knows how to beat. How your body knows how to rest and restore itself. This is your innate wisdom at work. The same wisdom that developed your pride as protection and that now guides you toward greater understanding and connection. We're going to take this journey together, one gentle step at a time, with no pressure to arrive anywhere other than a place of greater understanding and self-compassion. There's no timeline for this exploration, no right or wrong insights to discover. We're simply creating space for truth to emerge, for patterns to become clear, for compassion to grow. Take a slow, deep breath with me now. As you breathe in, imagine breathing in curiosity and compassion for yourself. As you breathe out, let go of any need to have it all figured out tonight. We're simply here to explore, to understand, and to honor all the ways you've learned to navigate this complex world. As you continue breathing, allow yourself to feel appreciation for your journey, for the strength you've developed, for the challenges you've overcome, for the wisdom you've gained. Allow yourself to feel curiosity about what lies ahead, about what new understandings might emerge, about what possibilities might open up. The insights we discover tonight will unfold naturally, like a flower opening to the morning sun. There's no rushing this process, no forcing understanding. We're creating space for wisdom to emerge organically, in its own time, in its own way. Your unconscious mind is already beginning to organize these thoughts, to connect these ideas, to prepare new perspectives for you to consider. And as we transition into exploring your personal connection with pride, remember that every pattern we'll discuss, every insight we'll uncover, comes from a place of deep respect for your journey and the ways you've learned to protect and care for yourself. You are not broken. You are not flawed. You are a complex, intelligent, beautiful human being who has developed sophisticated ways of moving through the world. And tonight we're simply going to understand those ways a little better. We're going to honor the intelligence of your adaptations, while also exploring what might be possible if some of those adaptations could evolve and expand. We're going to celebrate your strength while also making space for softness. We're going to appreciate your independence while also considering interdependence. Let's begin this gentle exploration together, with open hearts and curious minds, ready to discover new perspectives on the familiar landscape of your inner world. Tonight is about honoring where you are while also opening to where you might go. It's about understanding that your pride has been a faithful guardian, working tirelessly to protect your dignity and autonomy. As we move forward, we'll learn to work with this guardian rather than against it, helping it recognize when its services are truly needed and when it might be safe to relax its vigilance just a little. Maybe you've experienced that moment when someone offers to help you with something you're struggling with, and instead of feeling grateful, you feel a flash of irritation. Not at them exactly, but at the implication that you might need help. Your first instinct is to say, "No, I've got it," even when you're clearly overwhelmed, even when their offer is genuinely kind and well-intentioned. There's something about accepting help that feels like admitting defeat, like acknowledging that you're not as capable as you've worked so hard to be. Or perhaps you recognize that feeling when you're in a meeting or conversation and someone presents an idea that's different from yours. Instead of curiosity about their perspective, you feel that familiar surge of defensive energy. Your mind immediately begins cataloging all the reasons why your approach is better, why their suggestion won't work, why you've already considered and dismissed similar ideas. Even if their suggestion has merit, something in you needs to maintain your position, to prove that your thinking is sound, that your judgment is reliable. Maybe you've noticed how exhausting it can be to always be the strong one in your relationships. Friends and family come to you with their problems because they know you'll have good advice, because you always seem to have it together. And you do have good advice. Your perspective is valuable. Your problem-solving skills are sharp. But sometimes, when you're dealing with your own challenges, you realize there's no one you feel comfortable turning to. Not because people wouldn't want to help, but because something in you resists being on the receiving end of support. You might recognize that moment when someone suggests you might be wrong about something, or when they point out a mistake you've made. Even if they're gentle about it, even if they're absolutely right, there's that immediate internal bristling. It's not just about being corrected. It's about what being wrong seems to mean about you. Being wrong feels dangerous, like it calls into question your competence, your intelligence, your worthiness of respect, or that experience of being in a group where everyone is sharing their struggles or vulnerabilities, and you find yourself in the role of the helper, the one offering support and perspective. It feels good to be useful, to be the one with wisdom to share. But when the conversation turns to you, when someone asks how you're doing, you find yourself giving a surface-level response. Fine, good, busy but managing. Not because you're lying, but because sharing your real struggles feels too vulnerable, too much like weakness. Perhaps you've experienced the aftermath of these moments, lying awake at night feeling disconnected, despite being surrounded by people who care about you. You've successfully maintained your image as someone who has it together, someone who doesn't need much from others. But the cost is a subtle loneliness, a sense that people know the strong version of you, but not the whole version of you. You might recognize the pattern of pushing yourself to handle everything independently, even when it would be easier or more efficient to collaborate or ask for input. There's a deep satisfaction in solving problems on your own, and being able to say, I figured it out myself. But sometimes, this means spending hours struggling with something that someone else could have helped you resolve in minutes. Or maybe you've noticed how you respond when someone expresses concern about you. When they say they're worried about how hard you're working, or they suggest you might be taking on too much, or they notice that you seem stressed. Instead of feeling cared for, you feel annoyed or misunderstood. Their concern feels like criticism, like they're questioning your ability to manage your own life. These patterns aren't random quirks or personality flaws. They're the manifestations of a sophisticated internal system that learned to prioritize self-reliance above all else. This system developed for very good reasons. It protected you from disappointment, from being let down by others, from the vulnerability that comes with depending on people who might not always be available or reliable. Your pride learned to interpret offers of help as threats to your autonomy. It learned to see disagreement as challenges to your worth. It learned to translate concern into condescension. These interpretations weren't wrong at some point in your life. They might have been exactly the protective instincts you needed. But perhaps now you're beginning to notice the cost of this protection. The way it keeps you at arm's length from the very people you care about most. The way it prevents you from experiencing the deep satisfaction of true collaboration, of shared struggles and shared victories. The way it robs you of the comfort that comes from knowing others see your full humanity and love you not despite your struggles, but including them. This isn't about changing these patterns overnight or judging yourself for having developed them. This is about understanding them, appreciating their protective function, and beginning to recognize when they might be working harder than they need to. Like a smoke alarm that's become so sensitive it goes off when you make toast. These protective mechanisms might need some gentle recalibration. Let me tell you about a master craftsperson named Elena who lived in a village known for its beautiful handmade furniture. Elena was widely regarded as the most skilled woodworker in the region, perhaps in several regions. Her pieces were works of art: tables that seemed to grow from the wood itself, chairs that invited you to sit and feel embraced, cabinets that made organizing feel like a meditation. Elena had learned her craft through years of dedicated practice, through countless mistakes and gradual mastery. She had developed an intimate relationship with wood, understanding how different grains would respond to her tools, knowing instinctively which pieces would become what. Her workshop was a sanctuary, a place where she felt completely competent and in control. Over the years, Elena had built not just furniture, but a reputation. People traveled from distant villages to commission her work. They spoke of her pieces with reverence, describing how owning something Elena had made brought a sense of beauty and craftsmanship into their homes. This recognition felt wonderful. It validated years of hard work and confirmed what Elena knew about her abilities. But something interesting began to happen as Elena's reputation grew. When other craftspeople in the village suggested collaborating on larger projects, Elena found herself declining. When younger woodworkers asked if they could apprentice with her, she explained that she worked better alone. When the village council proposed creating a collective workshop where artisans could share tools and techniques, Elena politely but firmly chose to maintain her independent practice. Elena told herself these decisions were about maintaining quality, about preserving the integrity of her craft. And there was truth in that. Her solo work was indeed exceptional, but there was something else operating beneath the surface. Something Elena wasn't quite ready to examine. The truth was that Elena had become deeply attached not just to her craft, but to her identity as someone who needed no one's help to create beauty. The idea of collaboration, of shared credit, of potentially making mistakes in front of other skilled artisans felt threatening in a way she couldn't quite articulate. Her workshop wasn't just a place where she made furniture. It was a place where she never had to question her competence, never had to risk being seen as less than masterful. One autumn, a massive storm damaged several buildings in the village, including the community center that hosted gatherings, celebrations, and meetings. The village council decided to rebuild it entirely, creating something even more beautiful and functional than before. They approached Elena along with two other master craftspeople, Marcus, a stonemason, and Sophia, a metalworker, to lead the project together. Elena's first instinct was to propose that they divide the project into sections, each working independently on their area of expertise. But the council had a different vision. They wanted the building to be truly integrated, with wood, stone, and metal flowing together in harmony. They wanted a structure that could only be created through genuine collaboration. Elena felt a familiar resistance rising. Working with others meant the possibility of disagreement, of having her ideas questioned, of potentially being wrong about something in front of people whose opinions mattered. It meant sharing credit for the final result, and somehow that felt like diminishing her contribution rather than multiplying it. But Elena was also intrigued, despite herself. She had seen Marcus's stonework and Sophia's metalcraft, and both were truly exceptional. There was a part of her, a part she usually kept quiet, that was curious about what they might create together, what new possibilities might emerge from combining their different perspectives and skills. After much internal debate, Elena agreed to the collaboration, but with careful boundaries. She would handle all the woodwork, Marcus would handle the stone, Sophia would handle the metal, and they would coordinate but not interfere with each other's domains. This felt safe, manageable, familiar. The first few weeks went exactly as Elena had planned. They worked mostly independently, checking in occasionally to ensure their pieces would fit together properly. Elena felt comfortable and competent, creating beautiful wooden beams and intricate joinery work that would form the skeleton of the building. But then Sophia made a suggestion. She had been studying Elena's wooden framework and noticed an opportunity to integrate metal supports in a way that would not only strengthen the structure, but create a beautiful visual pattern. The metal could follow the natural lines of the wood grain, enhancing rather than hiding the beauty of Elena's work. Elena's first reaction was defensive. Her wooden framework was perfectly adequate structurally. It didn't need reinforcement, and the design was hers to determine. But as Sophia described her vision, sketching how the metal might flow alongside the wood like rivers of silver through a forest, Elena felt something unexpected. Excitement. Working with Sophia on this integration required Elena to be open about her process, to explain her thinking, to listen to feedback and suggestions. For the first time in years, Elena found herself saying, "I don't know," and "What do you think?" It felt vulnerable and uncomfortable, but also alive in a way she hadn't experienced in her solitary workshop. As the project progressed, the three craftspeople began truly collaborating. Marcus suggested ways the stone foundation could echo the patterns they were creating with wood and metal. Elena found herself modifying her original designs to accommodate and enhance her colleagues' contributions. Sometimes this meant admitting that their ideas were better than her original plans. Sometimes it meant being wrong about what would work best. And something magical began to happen. The building they were creating together was unlike anything any of them could have made alone. It wasn't just the sum of their individual skills. It was something entirely new, something that emerged from the intersection of their different perspectives and approaches. Elena realized that her fear of collaboration hadn't been about protecting her craft. It had been about protecting her identity as someone who never needed help, never made mistakes, never had to depend on others' insights. But in letting go of that protection, she hadn't lost anything essential. She was still a master craftsperson. Her skills were still exceptional. But now she was also part of something larger, something richer. The community center they created became known throughout the region not just for its beauty, but for the way it seemed to embody harmony itself. People said that being inside the building felt like being embraced by the combined wisdom of earth, tree, and flame. Children played more creatively in its spaces. Adults found themselves having deeper conversations. Even the village council meetings became more collaborative and productive. Years later, Elena would look back on this project as a turning point. Not because she stopped valuing her independence or gave up her individual practice, but because she learned that strength could include others, that mastery could embrace learning, that being proud of her skills didn't require protecting them from outside influence. She continued to work alone on many projects, but now by choice rather than from fear. And when opportunities for collaboration arose, she found herself genuinely curious about what might be possible when different forms of excellence met and mingled. Elena's story reflects the journey that many of us take with pride. Like Elena, we develop real skills, real competence, real reasons to be proud of what we can accomplish independently. But sometimes that pride becomes so protective that it keeps us from discovering what might be possible when we allow our strength to meet and mingle with others. Strength. The beauty of Elena's transformation wasn't that she became less skilled or less proud of her work. It was that she discovered a different kind of pride in what becomes possible when we're secure enough in our own abilities to be genuinely curious about others' abilities. When we're confident enough in our own worth to risk the vulnerability that comes with true collaboration. Tonight, as we continue this gentle exploration, we're following Elena's path, not toward becoming less proud of our capabilities, but toward discovering what becomes possible when our pride is secure enough to include others, when our strength is confident enough to embrace interdependence. Like Elena, you might find that your pride has been both guardian and gatekeeper. It has protected your sense of competence and autonomy, ensuring that you never have to doubt your abilities or depend on others who might disappoint you. But it has also been standing guard at the entrance to deeper connections, more meaningful collaborations, and richer experiences of shared accomplishment. Think about the Elena in your own life, the craftsperson who has developed real skills, real expertise, real reasons for confidence. This isn't false pride or empty arrogance. Like Elena's woodworking mastery, your capabilities are genuine. You have learned to navigate challenges, solve problems, create value in the world. Your pride has legitimate foundations. But consider 2. How Elena's story might illuminate patterns in your own relationships and work. Are there places where you find yourself, like Elena initially did, preferring to work alone not because it's necessarily more efficient, but because it feels safer? Are there moments when collaboration feels threatening, not because others lack skill, but because sharing space with other competent people raises the possibility of being questioned, challenged, or corrected? Perhaps you recognize Elena's experience of having to be open about her process for the first time in years. When was the last time you found yourself genuinely saying, "I don't know," or "What do you think?" to someone whose opinion mattered to you? When did you last allow yourself to be curious about someone else's approach rather than immediately comparing it to your own? Elena's journey shows us something important about the nature of transformation. She didn't have to diminish her skills or question her competence to open herself to collaboration. Her woodworking mastery remained intact. In fact, it became even more valuable when combined with Marcus's stonework and Sophia's metalcraft. The fear that collaboration would somehow diminish her contributions proved to be unfounded. Instead, her individual excellence became part of something larger and more beautiful. This speaks to one of the deepest fears that protective pride often carries. The fear that needing others somehow negates our individual worth. That interdependence is the opposite of strength rather than another expression of it. Elena discovered what many people find when they risk genuine collaboration, that allowing others to see our process, our uncertainties, our learning edges doesn't make us appear less competent. It makes us appear more human, more trustworthy, more real. There's something else significant in Elena's story. The way her transformation affected not just her own experience, but the entire community. The building they created together became a space where children played more creatively and adults had deeper conversations. When we allow our individual strengths to meet and mingle with others' strengths, we often discover that we're not just creating better outcomes for ourselves. We're contributing to something that serves everyone. This points to another dimension of pride worth exploring. Sometimes pride isn't just about protecting our individual competence. It's about protecting our sense of being special, unique, irreplaceable. There can be a secret satisfaction in being the one others turn to for help, the one who always has answers, the one who never needs support. This kind of pride feeds on being different from others rather than connected to them. Elena had to release her attachment to being the only master craftsperson in the story. She had to discover that sharing excellence with others didn't diminish her excellence, it amplified it. When Marcus and Sophia's contributions enhanced her work, when their ideas improved her original designs, Elena could have felt threatened or diminished. Instead, she discovered the joy of being part of something greater than any individual contribution. This shift from pride in being the only one to pride in being one among many excellent people represents a profound evolution in how we understand our worth and our place in the world. It's the difference between pride that isolates and pride that connects, between pride that defends and pride that collaborat is as you rest here tonight, breathing softly and allowing these ideas to settle in your mind like gentle snow. You might Find yourself thinking about your own craftsperson's workshop. What are the skills you've developed? The areas where you feel genuinely competent and proud? Where has that competence served you well, protected you from harm, allowed you to create value and beauty in the world? And where might that same protective competence have become a little too protective, a little too guarded? Where might you, like Elena, have opportunities to discover what becomes possible when excellence meets excellence, when individual strength becomes part of collective strength? There's no pressure to change anything tonight, no urgency to transform patterns that have served you for years. Elena's transformation happened gradually, naturally, as she became curious about possibilities rather than focused on protection. Your own evolution can happen in the same organic way through curiosity rather than force, through gentle exploration rather than dramatic change. As we prepare to move deeper into understanding the belief systems that support these patterns, take a moment to appreciate both the Elena you've been and the Elena you might become. The craftsperson who has worked with such dedication to develop mastery, and the collaborator who might discover new forms of beauty through connection with others. Both versions are valuable. Both versions are wise. Tonight is simply about understanding how they might work together, how individual excellence and collaborative excellence might enhance rather than threaten each other, like wood and metal and stone flowing together in harmony. Your strength and other strength might create something more beautiful together than any of you could create alone. As we settle deeper into this gentle exploration, let's turn our attention to the underground root system that supports the tree of pride. Like Elena's understanding of wood grain, we're going to examine the foundational beliefs that shape how pride shows up in your life. These aren't conscious thoughts you wake up thinking each morning, but deeper assumptions about how the world works, about what keeps you safe, about what it means to be worthy of respect and love. The first core belief that often underlies protective pride is this: if I need others, I become vulnerable to disappointment and rejection. This belief operates like a quiet voice in the background of your mind, constantly evaluating situations through the lens of risk and safety. It whispers questions like, what if they say no? What if they let me down? What if they see my need as weakness? This belief didn't develop in a vacuum. It emerged from real experiences, real moments when meeting others led to pain or disappointment. Maybe you remember being a child and asking for help with something important to you, only to be told, figure it out yourself, or you're old enough to handle this. Maybe you recall sharing a vulnerable moment with someone and having them respond with advice instead of understanding, or judgment instead of compassion. Perhaps there were times when you depended on someone and they weren't available when you needed them most. Not necessarily because they didn't care, but because they were dealing with their own challenges, their own limitations. But when you're young, or when you're in pain, the reason for unavailability matters less than the experience of being alone when you needed not to be alone. Your mind, brilliant and protective as it is, began to notice these patterns. It observed that needing others sometimes led to disappointment, that asking for help sometimes resulted in feeling more alone than before you asked. And it drew a logical conclusion. The safest way to avoid disappointment is to not create opportunities for it. The most reliable way to ensure your needs are met is to meet them yourself. This adaptation was incredibly intelligent. Your mind recognized that you are, in fact, quite capable. You can solve problems, handle challenges, figure things out. By relying on yourself, you eliminate the variable of other people's availability, mood, capacity, or willingness to help. You create a controlled environment where your competence is the only factor that matters. Over time, this belief strengthened through confirmation. Every time you solved a problem independently, it proved that you didn't need others. Every time you handled a challenge on your own, it demonstrated your capability. Every time you avoided asking for help and managed anyway, it reinforced the wisdom of self-reliance. But beliefs have a way of generalizing beyond their original protective purpose. What started as, "I don't need others for this specific type of situation," gradually became, "I don't need others at all." What began as, "I can handle challenges independently," evolved into asking for help is a sign of weakness. The belief that was meant to protect you from specific disappointments began protecting you from all forms of interdependence. This belief shows up in countless ways throughout your life. It's present when you spend hours trying to fix something yourself rather than calling someone who could help. It's active when you decline invitations because accepting would mean admitting you want something from others' company, connection, belonging. It operates when you give helpful advice but struggle to receive it. When you can support others through their challenges but feel uncomfortable sharing your own. The belief manifests in your work life too. Perhaps you take on more responsibilities than necessary because delegating feels risky. What if others don't meet your standards? What if they disappoint you? It's safer to maintain control, to ensure quality by doing things yourself. This isn't laziness or micromanagement. It's a sophisticated protective strategy based on the belief that needing others creates vulnerability in relationships. This belief can create a particular kind of loneliness. You become the person others turn to for strength and support, which feels good and confirms your value. But you rarely turn to others, which means relationships become somewhat one-sided. Not intentionally, and not because you don't care about balance, but because something deep inside warns you that needing others is dangerous territory. This belief about vulnerability and disappointment is often accompanied by a related assumption that your worth is tied to your independence. If you need others, it must mean you're not as capable as you thought. If you can't handle something alone, it reflects poorly on your competence, your intelligence, your value as a person. But here's what's important to understand about this belief. It's not entirely wrong. People can disappoint you. Others aren't always available when you need them. Depending on someone does create a form of vulnerability. Your protective mind isn't making things up. It's responding to real aspects of human relationships. The limitation isn't in recognizing these realities. It's in concluding that the only safe response is complete self-reliance. It's like deciding that because roads can be dangerous, the safest approach is never to travel. Technically true, but it also eliminates all the destinations that travel could take you to. What your protective mind might not have fully considered is that disappointment, while painful, isn't actually dangerous to your core self. Being let down by others doesn't diminish your fundamental worth or competence. Needing support doesn't erase your capabilities. Interdependence isn't the opposite of strength. It's a different expression of it. The belief that needing others makes you vulnerable to disappointment is accurate, but incomplete. Yes, depending on others involves risk, but so does not depending on others. Complete self-reliance carries its own vulnerabilities. The vulnerability of isolation, of carrying all burdens alone, of missing out on the support, insight, and connection that others can offer. Tonight, as you rest here breathing softly, consider this first belief with gentle curiosity rather than judgment. Notice where it might be operating in your life. Appreciate how it has protected you from real pain and disappointment. And simply, wonder whether there might be ways to honor its protective wisdom while also opening small windows to the possibility that needing others, in careful and conscious ways, might actually enhance your strength rather than threaten it. The second belief that often supports protective pride runs even deeper than the first. If I show weakness or uncertainty, others will lose respect for me. This belief operates like an internal monitoring system, constantly scanning for any signs that you might appear less than completely competent, less than fully in control, less than entirely certain about your decisions and opinions. This belief understands that respect is precious currency in human relationships. It recognizes that how others perceive your capabilities affects how they treat you, what opportunities they offer you, how seriously they take your opinions and contributions. And it has observed, often through painful experience, that showing uncertainty or struggle can sometimes lead to being dismissed, overlooked, or treated as less capable than you actually are. Perhaps you remember moments from childhood when admitting you didn't know something led to feeling foolish or small. Maybe there were times when showing fear or uncertainty resulted in others taking over rather than supporting you through the challenge. You might recall instances when expressing doubt or confusion was met with impatience rather than understanding. Or maybe you observed what happened to others when they showed vulnerability. You watched classmates who asked questions get labeled as slow or behind. You saw colleagues who admitted mistakes get passed over for opportunities. You noticed how admitting uncertainty sometimes led to being excluded from decisions or conversations. Your brilliant, pattern-recognizing mind began to connect these dots. It noticed that the people who seemed to command the most respect were those who appeared confident, certain, capable of handling whatever came their way. It observed that admitting weakness or uncertainty sometimes led to being treated as weak or uncertain, even when that wasn't an accurate reflection of your overall capabilities. From these observations, your mind developed a protective strategy. Present strength at all times. Never let others see you struggle. Always appear confident, even when you're not entirely certain. This strategy made perfect sense, given what you had observed about how the world responds to displays of vulnerability. This belief drives many of the behaviors we explored earlier. It's why accepting help can feel threatening, not just because it creates dependence, but because it might signal to others that you're not as capable as they thought. It's why being wrong feels so uncomfortable, not just because you prefer to be right, but because being wrong in front of others might damage their perception of your competence. The belief shows up in how you communicate. Perhaps you find yourself speaking with more certainty than you actually feel, making statements rather than asking questions, offering solutions rather than admitting confusion. Not because you're trying to deceive anyone, but because something inside warns you that showing uncertainty is risky. It influences how you handle mistakes. When you make an error, the instinct might be to minimize it, explain it away, or focus on everything you did right rather than simply acknowledging what went wrong. Again, not from dishonesty, but from a deep belief that admitting error will diminish others' respect for you. This belief affects how you respond to feedback or criticism. Instead of curiosity about what you might learn, there's often an immediate, defensive response. Your mind hears criticism not just as information about your performance, but as a threat to others' perception of your competence. The protective response is to defend, justify, or deflect rather than simply receiving the information. In leadership situations, this belief can create particular challenges. You might feel pressure to have all the answers, to never appear uncertain about decisions, to always project confidence even when you're facing unprecedented situations. The idea of saying, "I don't know," or "I need to think about this," can feel terrifying because it might undermine others' confidence in your leadership. The belief also influences how you engage with learning opportunities. Taking classes, asking for mentorship, or admitting you need to develop skills in certain areas can feel threatening because it might signal to others that you're not already expert in everything. It's safer to appear already knowledgeable than to risk looking like you have something to learn. But here's what's fascinating about this belief. It often creates the very outcome it's trying to prevent. In attempting to never show weakness, you might come across as rigid or unapproachable. In trying to always appear certain, you might seem close to input or collaboration. In working to maintain others' respect through invulnerability, You might actually distance yourself from the deeper forms of respect that come from authentic, human connection. The respect that comes from appearing invulnerable is different from the respect that comes from being genuinely trustworthy, wise, and human. The first type of respect is fragile. It depends on maintaining a perfect image. The second type is robust. It's based on people knowing your character, your values, your genuine capabilities, including your ability to grow and learn. Think about the people you most deeply respect in your own life. Are they the ones who never show uncertainty, who always have answers, who never admit mistakes? Or are they the people who demonstrate wisdom, integrity, and the confidence to be human, including being uncertain, learning from errors, and growing from feedback? Most people are actually drawn to leaders and friends who can be real about their struggles and limitations. There's something deeply reassuring about being around someone who is both competent and human, both strong and willing to admit when they don't have all the answers. This kind of authenticity creates trust rather than undermining it. The belief that showing weakness diminishes respect is understandable, but it's based on a limited understanding of what creates lasting respect. Yes, appearing incompetent or unreliable will damage how others see you. But there's a vast difference between being competent and being human, between being unreliable and being honest about your limitations. Actually, the ability to acknowledge uncertainty or admit mistakes often signals greater competence, not less. It shows that you're secure enough in your abilities to be honest about their boundaries. It demonstrates that you're more interested in getting things right than in appearing right. It suggests that you're the kind of person who can be trusted with accurate information because you won't shoot the messenger dot as you breathe slowly and deeply. Consider where this second belief might be operating in your life. Notice how it has protected you from potential judgment or dismissal. Appreciate the intelligence in wanting to maintain others' respect and confidence, and gently explore whether there might be ways to earn even deeper respect, the kind that comes not from appearing perfect, but from being authentically strong, genuinely wise, and courageously human. The third and perhaps deepest belief that often underlies protective pride is this: I am only valuable when I am strong, capable, and self-sufficient. This belief goes to the very core of your sense of worth and belonging in the world. It suggests that your value as a person is conditional dependent on maintaining certain qualities and avoiding others. This belief often develops very early in life, sometimes before you even have words for what you're experiencing. It emerges from subtle and not so subtle messages about what makes people lovable, worthy of attention, deserving of care and respect. Perhaps you noticed that the strong, capable children got more positive attention. Maybe you observed that struggling or needy family members were viewed with impatience or frustration. You might have learned this belief through direct experience, times when you were celebrated for being independent and capable, but received less positive attention when you needed help or support. Or you might have absorbed it indirectly, picking up on family or cultural messages about the importance of self-reliance, the virtue of not being a burden to others, the value of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. This belief often gets reinforced throughout life. When you handle challenges independently, people praise your strength and capability. When you don't need much from others, you're described as low maintenance or easy to be around. When you're the one offering support rather than needing it, you feel valued and appreciated. All of these experiences seem to confirm that your worth is tied to your independence. The belief manifests in countless subtle ways. It's present in that slight discomfort you feel when someone has to take care of you when you're sick, as if needing care makes you a burden. It operates when you apologize for having needs or for taking up space with your problems. It's active when you feel guilty for asking for help, as if your need for support is somehow an imposition on others. This belief can create a kind of internal accounting system where you constantly monitor the balance between what you give and what you receive, making sure you're always contributing more than you're taking. It's not enough to be a good person who sometimes needs support. You have to be a good person who needs very little support at all. The belief affects how you view your own struggles and challenges. When you're going through difficult times, there's often an added layer of shame, not just about whatever you're dealing with, but about the fact that you're struggling at all. It's as if struggling itself is a failure, as if strong people shouldn't have problems that overwhelm their capacity to handle them independently. In relationships, this belief can create complex dynamics. You might find yourself keeping score, making sure you're always the one giving more support, offering more help, being more available. Not because you don't want to receive, but because receiving feels dangerous to your sense of worth. If your value comes from being low maintenance and highly supportive, then having needs or requiring care threatens your fundamental lovability. The belief can also influence your relationship with your own emotions. Feelings that make you seem weak, needy, or uncertain might feel dangerous to experience or express. You might find yourself quickly moving through difficult emotions, focusing on solutions rather than allowing yourself to feel and be supported through the feeling process. This belief often comes with a companion assumption that if you show need, vulnerability, or struggle, others will eventually get tired of you and leave. It suggests that love and respect are earned through constant demonstration of strength, that relationships are transactional arrangements, where you must always provide more value than you consume. But here's what this belief misses. Human beings are wired for interdependence. We're social creatures who evolved to live in communities where everyone contributes different strengths and everyone has different needs at different times. The idea that some people should be perpetually strong while others receive care goes against our fundamental nature as interconnected beings. Moreover, the belief that you're only valuable when you're strong actually prevents others from experiencing the joy and meaning that comes from caring for someone they love. When you never allow others to support you, you rob them of the opportunity to demonstrate their love through action. You deny them the satisfaction that comes from being needed, from making a difference in your life. Think about how you feel when someone you care about allows you to help them through a difficult time. There's something deeply meaningful about being trusted with someone's vulnerability, about being able to offer support when it's genuinely needed. By never allowing others to experience this with you, you might be limiting the depth and richness of your relationships. The belief also misunderstands the nature of strength itself. True strength isn't about never needing support. It's about knowing when you need support and being brave enough to seek it. Real capability isn't about handling everything alone. It's about knowing how to access and coordinate the resources available to you, including the resource of other people's care and expertise. Consider the strongest people you know, not the ones who appear invulnerable, but the ones who demonstrate genuine resilience and wisdom. Chances are, they're people who have learned how to reach out for support when they need it, who can be vulnerable when vulnerability is called for, who understand that receiving care doesn't diminish their ability to provide care. Your worth as a human being isn't conditional on your performance, your independence, or your ability to handle everything alone. You matter because you exist, because you're a conscious being capable of love and growth and contribution. Your value doesn't fluctuate based on whether you're having a strong day or a struggling day, whether you're offering support or needing it. The people who truly love you, whether family, friends, or partners, don't love you because you're low maintenance. They love you because of who you are as a complete person, including your strengths and your vulnerabilities, your capabilities and your needs. They want to know the whole you, not just a strong version of you. As you rest here tonight, breathing. Gently and allowing these ideas to settle in your awareness, consider this third belief with the same compassionate curiosity you've brought to the others. Notice where it might be operating in your life. Appreciate how it has motivated you to develop real strengths and capabilities. And gently explore whether your worth might be more secure, more unconditional, more inherent than this belief suggests. What if you were valuable not because of what you do or don't need from others, but simply because you are? What if your worth is constant, regardless of whether you're having a day when you're supporting everyone else or a day when you need support yourself? What if being human, with all the complexity, vulnerability, and interdependence that entails, is not a flaw to overcome, but a beautiful reality to embrace? Tonight, you have permission to be valuable exactly as you are, in this moment, with whatever needs and struggles and strengths you carry. You have permission to matter, not because of your performance, but because of your existence. You have permission to be loved, not despite your humanity, but because of it. These three beliefs about needing others, creating vulnerability, showing weakness, diminishing respect, and worth being conditional on strength, work together like an intricate, protective system. They reinforce each other, creating what psychologists call a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you believe that needing others is dangerous, you avoid asking for help. When you avoid asking for help, you don't experience the positive outcomes that could come from interdependence. This reinforces the original belief that it's safer to handle things alone. Similarly, when you believe that showing uncertainty will cause others to lose respect for you, you present yourself as always confident and certain. When you always appear confident, people come to expect that from you and might even rely on your apparent certainty. This creates pressure to maintain the image, which reinforces the belief that showing uncertainty would indeed be problematic. And when you believe your worth depends on being strong and self-sufficient, you work hard to be strong and self-sufficient. People notice and appreciate these qualities, often commenting on how capable and independent you are. This positive feedback seems to confirm that your worth is indeed tied to these qualities, strengthening the belief that you must maintain them to remain valuable. It's important to recognize how intelligent and adaptive this system has been. These beliefs didn't develop randomly. They emerged as responses to real experiences in a complex world. They've helped you develop genuine strengths, real capabilities, actual resilience. The pride that flows from these beliefs isn't entirely misplaced. You do have legitimate reasons to be proud of what you've accomplished and who you've become. But like any protective system, these beliefs can become overactive, continuing to protect you from dangers that may no longer be present in the same way they once were. The child who learned that needing others could lead to disappointment may have been in an environment where adults were truly unreliable or unavailable. The young person who discovered that showing uncertainty led to criticism may have been surrounded by people who equated questions with weakness. These experiences were real, and the protective responses were appropriate for those circumstances. But you're no longer in those same circumstances. You now have the ability to choose who you connect with, to seek out people who can meet uncertainty with curiosity rather than judgment, who can meet your needs with care rather than impatience. People in your life now may be very different from the people who taught you these protective lessons. They may be safer, more trustworthy, more capable of holding space for your full humanity. But your protective system, loyal and vigilant, continues to operate as if you're still in those original circumstances. This is why transformation isn't about attacking these beliefs or trying to eliminate them through willpower. They're not enemies to be defeated. They're outdated protective measures that need to be gently updated. Like security software that needs an update to recognize new, safe programs, your internal protective system might benefit from some gentle recalibration. The process of updating these beliefs isn't about becoming weak, needy, or incompetent. It's not about losing your independence or diminishing your capabilities. It's about expanding your options, creating more flexibility in how you respond to different situations. It's about being able to choose strength when strength is called for, and choose interdependence when interdependence would serve you better. Think of it like learning a new language while still maintaining fluency in your native tongue. You're not losing your ability to be independent. You're gaining the ability to be interdependent when that's more appropriate. You're not sacrificing your strength. You're adding vulnerability as another form of courage you can access when it's needed. This expansion of options actually makes you more powerful, not less. A person who can only be strong is limited, just as a person who can only be vulnerable is limited. A person who can consciously choose between independence and interdependence, between strength and vulnerability, between leading and following, has access to a much fuller range of human responses. Consider how this might apply to the Elena story we explored earlier. Elena's beliefs about needing to work alone and maintain complete control over her craft were perfectly valid for a certain stage of her development. They helped her become a master craftsperson, developing skills and confidence that served her well. But when she was able to gently update those beliefs, she didn't lose her mastery. She gained access to collaborative mastery. Elena's transformation illustrates something important about belief change. It's not about becoming a different person, but about becoming a more complete version of who you already are. Elena was always capable of collaborations. She just needed to feel safe enough to access that capability. She was always able to learn from others. She just needed to trust that learning from others wouldn't diminish her own knowledge. In your own life, you might find that these three beliefs are held in different parts of your psyche with different levels of intensity. Perhaps the belief about needing others feels very strong in romantic relationships, but less intense in professional contexts. Maybe the belief about showing weakness feels more activated around family members than around friends. The belief about conditional worth might be more prominent in certain areas of your life than others. This variation is normal and actually helpful information. It suggests that your protective system is nuanced and contextual, responding to different levels of perceived safety in different relationships and situations. As you become more aware of these patterns, you can begin to work with them more consciously. You might notice, for example, that you feel safer being vulnerable with certain people than with others. This isn't a sign that you're being inauthentic. It's a sign that your protective system is working intelligently, recognizing different levels of safety in different relationships. The goal isn't to be equally vulnerable with everyone, but to expand your capacity to be appropriately vulnerable when it would enhance connection and support. Similarly, you might discover that there are certain areas of your life where asking for help feels more natural than others. Perhaps you're comfortable asking for technical advice, but struggle to ask for emotional support. Or maybe you can easily seek help with practical matters, but resist asking for guidance on personal decisions. These distinctions provide a roadmap for gentle expansion. The key word here is gentle. Transformation that lasts happens gradually, with respect for your protective system and appreciation for the wisdom it contains. It's not about forcing yourself to be vulnerable in situations where that doesn't feel safe, or pushing yourself to ask for help when every instinct says to handle things alone. Instead, it's about creating small experiments in safety, finding one person you might trust with a slightly vulnerable moment, identifying one situation where asking for input might actually enhance rather than threaten your competence, discovering one area where your worth isn't dependent on being the strongest person in the room. These small experiments allow your protective system to gather new data about what's possible in your current circumstances. When you discover that, Showing uncertainty to a trusted friend actually deepens their respect for you. That information updates your understanding of how the world works. When you experience asking for help and receiving generous support, that experience teaches your nervous system that interdependence can be safe. Over time, as your protective system gathers evidence that the world contains more safety and support than it originally believed, the beliefs begin to evolve naturally. Not because you force them to change, but because they're responding to new information about what's possible and what's safe. As you lie here tonight, breathing peacefully and allowing these ideas to settle into your awareness, you don't need to change anything. You don't need to challenge your beliefs or force yourself to be different. Simply let yourself become curious about these patterns, appreciative of their protective function, and gently open to the possibility that they might be ready for some loving updates. Your pride, your strength, your independence, these are gifts you developed through years of experience and growth. Tonight is simply about exploring whether those gifts might become even more powerful when they include the possibility of connection, vulnerability, and mutual support. Like Elena's woodworking skills becoming more beautiful when combined with Marcus's stonework and Sophia's metalcraft, your individual strengths might be ready to discover what becomes possible when they're shared with others who are worthy of your trust. Now that we've explored the foundational beliefs that support protective pride, we're ready to begin the gentle process of healing and integration. Like Elena learning to recognize when her fierce independence was serving her versus when it was limiting her possibilities, you're about to embark on the recognition phase, the first step in creating a more conscious relationship with your own protective patterns. The recognition phase isn't about judgment or criticism. It's about developing what psychologists call loving awareness. The ability to notice your patterns with the same kindness you'd show a good friend who was sharing their struggles with you. This phase is about becoming a compassionate observer of your own internal world, curious about how your protective system operates without trying to immediately change it. Recognition begins with simply noticing when your protective pride is activated. This might feel like a subtle internal shift, a slight stiffening when someone offers help, a quiet resistance when someone questions your approach, a gentle withdrawal when someone suggests you might benefit from support. These aren't dramatic reactions. They're often so subtle that they happen below your conscious awareness. Start by paying attention to your body's signals. Pride activation often shows up physically before it reaches your conscious mind. You might notice your shoulders straightening, your jaw tightening slightly, your breathing becoming a bit more shallow. Your posture might shift into what feels like a more defended position. These physical responses are your nervous system's way of preparing for what it perceives as a potential threat to your autonomy or competence. Notice what situations tend to activate these responses. Is it when someone offers unsolicited advice? When you're struggling with something and others can see your struggle? When someone asks if you need help? When you make a mistake in front of others? When someone expresses concern about your well-being? Each person's activation patterns are unique, shaped by their individual history and experiences. Pay attention to the thoughts that arise during these moments. Your mind might immediately start generating reasons why you don't need help, evidence of your past successes, justifications for your current approach. You might find yourself mentally rehearsing all the ways you've handled similar situations before, or planning how you'll prove your competence. These thought patterns aren't wrong. They're your mind's way of reinforcing your sense of capability and control. Notice the emotional landscape that accompanies pride activation. There might be a flash of irritation, a spike of anxiety, a surge of defensive energy. You might feel misunderstood, underestimated, or incorrectly perceived as less capable than you are. Sometimes there's a feeling of loneliness, as if others don't truly understand your strength or appreciate your independence. Observe how you respond behaviorally when pride is activated. Do you become more formal or distant? Do you deflect offers of help with humor or quick dismissals? Do you change the subject when conversations turn to your needs or struggles? Do you find ways to demonstrate your competence or prove your point? Again, these responses aren't failures. They're strategies your system has developed to maintain safety and autonomy. The key to effective recognition is noticing without immediately trying to change anything. Think of yourself as a gentle scientist studying a fascinating phenomenon. Your protective pride is incredibly sophisticated. It operates with split-second timing, making complex calculations about safety and threat, deploying strategies that have been refined through years of experience. Rather than trying to shut it down, you're simply beginning to understand how it works. As you develop this observational capacity, you might start to notice patterns. Perhaps your pride is more activated when you're tired or stressed. Maybe it's stronger in certain relationships or environments. You might discover that it's more sensitive during particular times of day or in response to specific types of challenges. This information isn't meant to be used against yourself. It's data that helps you understand your own protective system with greater nuance and compassion. Recognition also involves noticing the cost of these protective responses, not in a self-critical way, but with honest awareness of how they affect your relationships and experiences. You might observe that deflecting help leaves you handling challenges alone when collaboration might be more effective. You might notice that maintaining emotional distance protects you from vulnerability, but also limits intimacy. You might see how proving your competence keeps others respect, but prevents them from offering support. This recognition isn't about determining that your protective patterns are bad or wrong. It's about developing a more complete picture of how they serve you and how they limit you. Like Elena recognizing that her independent approach to woodworking had both protected her craft and isolated her from collaborative possibilities. You're simply gathering information about the full impact of your protective strategies. During this recognition phase, be especially gentle with yourself. Your protective pride has been working tirelessly to keep you safe, respected, and autonomous. It deserves appreciation, not criticism. When you notice it activating, try offering it internal gratitude. Thank you for trying to protect me. Thank you for caring about my dignity and autonomy. I see how hard you're working to keep me safe. This appreciative awareness creates the foundation for the healing work that follows. When your protective system feels seen and valued rather than attacked or dismissed, it becomes more willing to consider updates and modifications. Recognition with appreciation opens the door to the compassion phase that comes next. Once you've developed the ability to recognize your protective pride patterns with loving awareness, you're ready for the profound work of compassion meeting. This phase involves creating an internal dialogue with the part of you that has been working so diligently to maintain your independence, strength, and dignity. It's like Elena having a conversation with the part of herself that insisted on working alone, understanding its concerns and appreciating its dedication before exploring new possibilities. Compassion meeting is based on the understanding that your protective pride isn't an enemy to be conquered or a flaw to be eliminated. It's more like a faithful guardian who's been standing watch at the gates of your heart, carefully screening everyone and everything that might threaten your sense of safety and worth. This guardian has been doing important work, and it deserves to be met with respect and appreciation. Begin by finding a quiet moment when you can turn your attention inward. Imagine that you're approaching this protective part of yourself, the way you might approach a dedicated security guard who's been working the night shift for years. You wouldn't storm up to them demanding they abandon their post. Instead, you'd acknowledge their service, thank them for their vigilance, and perhaps gently inquire about their experience. Start with genuine appreciation. Speak to this protective part, either silently in your mind or in a journal, acknowledging all the ways it has served you. Thank you for helping me develop such strong capabilities. Thank you for ensuring that I never have to feel helpless or dependent in ways that could hurt me. Thank you for protecting my dignity and helping me maintain others' respect. Thank you for teaching me that I can rely on myself. As you offer this appreciation, notice what arises. Your protective part might initially be suspicious of this attention. It's used to working in the background, not being directly addressed. It might wonder if you're trying to trick it into letting its guard down. Be patient and genuine in your appreciation. This part of you has real wisdom and has made real contributions to your life. Ask this protective part about its concerns. What is it worried might happen if you were to need others more openly? What does it fear could occur if you showed uncertainty or vulnerability? What dangers does it perceive in being more interdependent? Listen to the responses that arise. They might come as words, images, feelings, or body sensations. You might hear concerns like, if you need others, they'll see you as weak and lose respect for you. If you show uncertainty, people will think you're incompetent. If you depend on others, they'll let you down, and you'll be hurt. If you're not always strong, people will stop valuing you. These concerns aren't irrational. They're based on real experiences and observations your protective system has gathered over time. Meet these concerns with validation rather than argument. Instead of immediately countering with reasons why these fears might be outdated, acknowledge the intelligence behind them. I can see why you'd be worried about that. You've seen how people sometimes respond to vulnerability, and you're trying to protect me from that pain. That shows how much you care about my well-being. Share information with this protective part about your current circumstances. Let it know about the people in your life now who have demonstrated trustworthiness. Remind it of times when showing vulnerability actually strengthened relationships rather than weakening them. Help it understand that you now have more resources and better judgment than you had when these protective strategies first developed. This isn't about convincing your protective part that it's wrong, but rather about updating its information base, like a security system that needs to learn about new authorized visitors. Your protective part might benefit from learning about new sources of safety and support in your current life. Ask this part what it would need to feel safe, allowing you to be more open to interdependence. What reassurances would help it relax its vigilance just slightly? What evidence would convince it that some level of vulnerability might be safe? What safeguards would need to be in place for it to consider allowing more connection? Listen carefully to the responses. Your protective part might say it would need to see consistent evidence of others' trustworthiness before allowing vulnerability. It might want reassurance that you won't abandon your strengths or capabilities if you also embrace interdependence. It might need to know that you'll still value independence while also exploring connection. Negotiate gently with this part. Let it know that you're not planning to dismantle all its protective strategies overnight. Reassure it that you still value strength, competence, and autonomy. You're simply interested in expanding your range of options. You might say something like, I'm not asking you to stop protecting me entirely. I'm just wondering if we might experiment with being a little more open in situations that seem especially safe. Suggest small experiments that honor your protective part's concerns while gently expanding your comfort zone. Perhaps you could practice asking for input from one particularly trustworthy person. Maybe you could try showing uncertainty in a low-stakes situation with someone who has consistently responded to your vulnerability with kindness. These experiments aren't about proving you're protective. Part wrong. They're about gathering new data together. Throughout this process, Continue to acknowledge the wisdom and positive intentions of your protective pride. Let it know that its vigilance has helped you develop real strengths that you have no intention of abandoning. Help it understand that you're not trying to become weak or overly dependent. You're trying to become more flexible and conscious in your responses. This compassion meeting isn't a one-time conversation. It's an ongoing dialogue that deepens over time. As you continue to approach your protective part with appreciation and curiosity rather than criticism and force, it gradually becomes more willing to consider updates and modifications. Like Elena's protective instincts learning to distinguish between genuine threats and safe opportunities for collaboration, your protective pride can learn to recognize when its full defensive response is needed and when it might be safe to try a different approach. The goal isn't to eliminate your protective pride, but to develop a collaborative relationship with it. Instead of it making unilateral decisions about when to activate, you begin to work together, combining its wisdom about potential dangers with your conscious awareness of current circumstances and opportunities. This collaborative relationship creates the foundation for the integration work that follows. When your protective part feels heard, valued, and involved in decision-making rather than overruled or bypassed, it becomes an ally in your growth rather than an obstacle to it. The integration phase represents the beautiful moment when understanding transforms into gentle action, when insight begins to flower into new ways of being. Like Elena taking her first tentative steps toward collaboration while still honoring her woodworking mastery. Integration is about consciously choosing how to engage with your protective pride patterns rather than being unconsciously driven by them. Integration begins with the recognition that you now have choice where once you had only automatic response. Through the recognition and compassion phases, you've developed awareness of your protective patterns and created a collaborative relationship with the part of you that generates them. Now you can begin to experiment with conscious responses rather than reactive ones. Start small and honor your nervous system's need for safety. Integration isn't about forcing dramatic changes or pushing yourself into situations that feel genuinely unsafe. Instead, it's about finding the edge of your comfort zone and gently expanding it, always with respect for your protective system's wisdom and concerns. Choose one area of your life where you feel most supported and secure to begin these experiments. This might be with a particular friend who has consistently shown themselves to be trustworthy, or in a professional context where you feel especially confident, or within a hobby or interest where the stakes feel relatively low. The goal is to practice new responses in an environment that feels as safe as possible. Begin with micro-experiments in vulnerability. Instead of immediately having all the answers in a conversation, you might try saying, "That's interesting, I hadn't thought of it that way," or "Let me consider that." Instead of declining all offers of help, you might accept assistance with something small and non-critical. Instead of always being the one who offers support, you might share a minor struggle and see how others respond. Notice what happens in your body during these experiments. Your protective system might initially flood you with anxiety or concern. This is normal and not a sign that you're doing anything wrong. Breathe deeply and remind yourself that you're safe, that you're choosing this experiment consciously, and that you can return to familiar patterns anytime you need to. Pay attention to how others respond to these small vulnerabilities. Most people, especially those who care about you, will likely respond with warmth, support, or appreciation for your authenticity. This information becomes valuable data for your protective system, evidence that vulnerability doesn't always lead to rejection or loss of respect. Practice what therapists call opposite action, consciously choosing responses that are opposite to your protective impulses, but only when it feels safe to do so. If your impulse is to immediately solve someone's problem for them, try asking questions and listening instead. If your tendency is to deflect compliments, try simply saying, "Thank you," and receiving the appreciation. If you usually handle challenges alone, try asking one person for their perspective or input. Develop what psychologists call distress tolerance, the ability to be uncomfortable without immediately escaping the discomfort. When you're practicing new behaviors, you'll likely feel some anxiety, uncertainty, or vulnerability. Instead of immediately reverting to familiar protective patterns, see if you can breathe through these feelings and stay present with the experience. Create mantras or reminders that help you stay grounded during these experiments. You might tell yourself, "This discomfort is temporary and normal. I'm building new capacity for connection. I'm safe to try this new approach. I can handle whatever response I receive." These internal supports help you stay present with new experiences rather than escaping back to familiar patterns. Celebrate small victories and learn from all outcomes. When an experiment in vulnerability goes well, when someone responds to your uncertainty with support rather than judgment, or when accepting help actually enhances rather than diminishes your sense of capability, take time to really absorb this experience. Let your nervous system feel the safety and connection that can come from interdependence. When experiments don't go as hoped, when someone responds poorly to your vulnerability, or when asking for help feels genuinely disappointing, use these experiences as information rather than evidence that you should return to complete self-protection. Not every person or situation will be safe for vulnerability, and part of integration is developing discernment about when and with whom to experiment with openness. Build what therapists call corrective experiences, positive interactions that directly contradict your protective system's fears. Each time you show uncertainty and receive support rather than judgment, each time you ask for help and receive generous assistance, each time you're vulnerable and experience acceptance rather than rejection, you're providing your nervous system with evidence that the world contains more safety than it originally believed. Develop flexibility in your responses rather than rigidity in either direction. Integration isn't about becoming someone who always asks for help or always shows vulnerability. It's about developing the capacity to choose your response based on the actual situation rather than automatic protective patterns. Sometimes independence and strength will be exactly what's called for. Sometimes vulnerability and interdependence will serve you better. Practice what Buddhists call middle way, finding balance between extremes. You can be both strong and vulnerable, both independent and interdependent, both capable and willing to receive support. These aren't contradictory qualities. They're complementary aspects of a fully developed human being. Notice how integration affects your relationships. As you begin to show more of your authentic self, including your uncertainties, needs, and struggles, you may find that your connections with others deepen. People may share more of themselves with you in return, creating relationships that feel more mutual and satisfying. Be patient with the integration process. Like Elena learning to collaborate while maintaining her individual excellence, developing new patterns while honoring old wisdom takes time. Your protective system has been operating automatically for years or decades. It won't update overnight, nor should it. Sustainable change happens gradually, with respect for your system's need for safety and control. Remember that integration is an ongoing process rather than a destination. There will be times when your protective pride serves you well, and times when choosing vulnerability enhances your connections and experiences. The goal isn't to eliminate protection, but to develop conscious choice about when and how to use your various capabilities. As you continue this gentle integration work, you're following Elena's path toward collaborative mastery, honoring your individual strengths, while discovering what becomes possible when those strengths are shared with others who are worthy of your trust. You're building the capacity to be both proudly independent and beautifully interdependent, choosing your response based on wisdom rather than automatic protection. As we move deeper into the integration process, it's time to engage your body's innate wisdom in this healing journey. Your nervous system holds the memory of every experience that taught you to be fiercely independent. Every moment when vulnerability felt dangerous. Every instance when pride became your shield. But your body also holds the capacity for new experiences, new patterns, and new ways of being in relationship with yourself and others. Body-based healing recognizes that protective pride isn't just a mental concept. It's a lived experience that shows up in your posture, your breathing, your muscle tension, and your nervous system responses. Just as Elena's hands knew the texture of wood grain before her mind could articulate it, your body knows things about safety and connection that your conscious mind is still learning. Begin by developing a conscious relationship with how pride feels in your body. When your protective patterns activate, notice what happens physically. You might observe your spine straightening into what feels like a position of strength, your shoulders pulling back into a defensive posture, your jaw setting with determination. Your breathing might become more shallow or controlled. Your muscles might tense in preparation for standing your ground. These physical responses aren't wrong. They're your body's intelligent way of preparing for what it perceives as a challenge to your autonomy or dignity. Your nervous system is literally helping you stand tall in the face of potential threat. Appreciate this body wisdom while also beginning to explore what different responses might feel like. Practice what somatic therapists call pendulation, gently moving between the familiar sensations of protective pride and the less familiar sensations of relaxed openness. When you notice your body moving into its protective stance, don't force it to change. Instead, breathe into that posture, acknowledge its wisdom, and then experiment with softening just slightly. You might try letting your shoulders drop just an inch, or allowing your jaw to release just a fraction. Notice what happens when you maintain your sense of dignity and strength, while also creating space for a little more ease in your body. This isn't about collapsing or becoming weak. It's about discovering that you can be both strong and soft, both dignified and approachable. Experiment with breathing patterns that support both strength and openness. When pride is activated, breathing often becomes more controlled and contained. Try maintaining that sense of control while also allowing your exhales to be slightly longer, creating space for your nervous system to settle. You might breathe in for a count of 4, hold for 4, and exhale for 6, allowing the longer exhale to signal safety to your nervous system. Practice what Buddhists call warrior's breath, breathing that embodies both courage and compassion. Imagine breathing in strength and capability, and breathing out the willingness to be seen and known by others. This isn't about choosing between strength and vulnerability. It's about breathing them together, allowing your body to experience them as complementary rather than contradictory. Develop body-based practices that help you access different states of being. You might create a physical gesture that reminds you of your strength and capability, perhaps placing a hand over your heart and feeling your own steady heartbeat, or placing both hands on your shoulders in a gesture of self-appreciation. When you're feeling particularly defended, this gesture can remind you of your inherent worth and capability. Similarly, create a physical practice that helps you access openness and connection. This might be gently opening your arms in a welcoming gesture, or softening your gaze when talking with others, or placing your hands in an open, receptive position. These aren't dramatic changes. They're subtle body cues that help your nervous system remember that you have options beyond pure defense. Practice grounding, techniques that help you feel both strong and connected to the earth and to others. This might involve feeling your feet firmly planted on the ground, while also allowing your heart to be open to connection. Or sitting in a chair, and feeling the solid support beneath you, while also allowing your face and shoulders to soften into a more approachable expression. Experiment with embodied boundaries, ways of maintaining your sense of autonomy and dignity, while also remaining open to appropriate connection. This might involve imagining a protective bubble around you that's strong enough to keep you safe, but permeable enough to allow love and support to flow in and out. Your body can learn to maintain protection without total isolation. Notice how your body responds to different types of touch and physical comfort. Some people with protective pride patterns are comfortable giving physical comfort, but struggle to receive it. Practice receiving a hug without immediately pulling away, or allowing someone to place a supportive hand on your shoulder. Start with brief moments and people who feel safest, gradually building your capacity to receive physical expressions of care. Pay attention to how your body feels in different social configurations. You might notice that you feel more defended in large groups but more open in one-on-one conversations. Or perhaps you feel safer when you're in a position of authority, but more vulnerable when you're in a learning role. This information helps you understand your nervous system's specific triggers and preferences. Practice what trauma therapists call titration, working with small amounts of new experience rather than overwhelming your system with too much change at once. If showing vulnerability feels overwhelming, start by allowing your body to relax just slightly in safe situations. If asking for help feels impossible, begin by simply accepting help that's offered without asking for it. Develop a daily practice of checking in with your body and appreciating its wisdom. You might spend a few minutes each morning noticing how your body feels, thanking it for all the ways it protects and serves you, and setting an intention to work with it rather than against it throughout the day. This creates a collaborative relationship between your conscious mind and your body's intelligence. Create embodied affirmations, statements that you can feel in your body rather than just think in your mind. Instead of just thinking, I am strong, feel strength in your posture and breathing. Instead of just thinking, I am worthy of love, allow your heart to open slightly and your face to soften. These embodied practices help integrate new beliefs at a nervous system level. Practice transitional movements that help you shift between different states of being. You might have a physical ritual for moving from work mode, where independence might be particularly important, to personal time, where connection might be more available. This could be as simple as changing clothes, washing your hands mindfully, or doing a few gentle stretches. Notice how your body feels in the presence of different people. Your nervous system is constantly scanning for safety and threat, often picking up information that your conscious mind hasn't processed yet. If your body consistently relaxes around certain people, that's valuable information about who might be safe for vulnerability experiments. If your body consistently tenses around others, that's equally valuable information about appropriate boundaries. Remember that body-based healing happens gradually and organically. Your nervous system has learned its protective patterns over many years. It won't update overnight. Be patient with the process and celebrate small shifts. A slight softening in your shoulders, a deeper breath, and a challenging conversation. A moment of ease in receiving help. These are all meaningful steps in your healing journey. Your body is not separate from your mind or emotions. It's an integral part of your whole being. As you develop a more conscious, appreciative relationship with your body's protective wisdom, while also exploring its capacity for openness and connection, you're creating the foundation for sustainable transformation that honors all aspects of who you are. As you begin to heal your relationship with protective pride, you'll likely notice shifts in how you relate to the people in your life. Like Elena discovering that collaboration enhanced rather than threatened her individual excellence, you may find that allowing others to see more of your authentic self, including your uncertainties and needs, actually strengthens your relationships. rather than weakening them. These changes can feel both exciting and unsettling. The people in your life have grown accustomed to relating to the strong, independent version of you. When you begin to show more vulnerability or ask for support more openly, they may respond with surprise, confusion, or even resistance. Understanding these dynamics and navigating them skillfully is an important part of your integration process. Let's start by recognizing that your relationships have been organized around certain unspoken agreements. You've been the one who offers support, advice, and strength. Others have been the ones who receive these gifts from you. This arrangement has worked well in many ways. It's allowed you to feel valuable and needed while protecting you from the vulnerability of needing others. But these relationship patterns, while protective, may have also limited the depth and mutuality possible in your connections. When relationships become too one-sided, they can feel more like performance than authentic connection. Others may appreciate your strength and support, but they may also feel shut out from opportunities to care for you in return. As you begin to experiment with showing more of yourself, some people will respond with warmth and appreciation. They may express relief that they finally get to see the real you, or gratitude that you trust them enough to be vulnerable. These positive responses provide valuable feedback to your protective system that vulnerability doesn't always lead to rejection or loss of respect. However, not everyone will initially respond positively to your changes. Some people may feel confused or even threatened when you begin to show uncertainty or ask for support. This doesn't necessarily mean they don't care about you. It may simply mean they're responding to a change in familiar dynamics. They've learned to rely on your strength and may not immediately know how to respond when you show need. Be prepared for questions like, "Are you okay?" or "This isn't like you," when you begin to share struggles or ask for help. These responses aren't necessarily negative. They may reflect genuine concern for your well-being. People who care about you may worry that something is wrong when you act differently than usual. You can reassure them that you're actually becoming more yourself, not less. Some people may initially try to fix you or return you to your familiar role as the strong one. They might dismiss your concerns, offer quick solutions, or redirect conversations back to their own issues. This isn't necessarily manipulation. It may be their automatic response to unfamiliar territory. Be patient as both you and they learn new ways of relating. Practice clear, gentle communication about what you need. Instead of simply hoping others will know how to respond to your new openness, you can help them understand what would be helpful. You might say something like, "I'm learning to share more of what I'm going through, and it would mean a lot if you could just listen without trying to fix anything." Or, "I'm practicing asking for support, and even if you can't help, I appreciate you hearing me." Notice which relationships become richer and more intimate as you allow more authenticity, and which ones feel more strained or distant. This information helps you understand which people in your life are capable of relating to your full humanity, and which ones may have been primarily attracted to your role as the strong, independent one. Some relationships may naturally become less central in your life as you change. If someone was primarily drawn to what you could do for them rather than who you are as a complete person, they may become less interested as you become more mutual in your expectations. This can feel sad, but it's also valuable information about the true nature of those connections. Other relationships will likely deepen and become more satisfying as you allow more reciprocity. People who have always wanted to support you but didn't know how to break through your independence may flourish when given the opportunity to care. For you, these relationships often become more vibrant and intimate as they become more balanced. Be especially mindful of family dynamics, which can be particularly resistant to change. Family members often have deeply ingrained roles and expectations. that have developed over many years. Your siblings, parents, or children may have strong reactions to changes in how you show up in the family system. Change in one person often requires adjustment from everyone else. Approach family changes with extra patience and communication. Let family members know that you're not rejecting them or your history together. You're simply growing and evolving. Help them understand that becoming more open to support doesn't mean you no longer value the strength and independence that have been part of your family identity, not in romantic partnerships. Changes in your relationship with pride can be particularly significant. If your partner has been accustomed to your independence and strength, they may need time to adjust to seeing your vulnerabilities and needs. Some partners will welcome this intimacy, while others may feel unsure about how to respond. Communicate openly with romantic partners about your growth process. Let them know that learning to be more vulnerable and interdependent isn't a sign of weakness or instability. It's a sign of growth and health. Help them understand that you're not becoming a different person, but rather becoming a more complete version of yourself. Practice setting boundaries around how others respond to your changes. While it's important to be patient with people's adjustment process, you don't need to accept dismissive, critical, or unsupportive responses to your growth. You can gently but firmly let people know that you're committed to this development and that you need their support or at least their respect for your journey. Seek out new relationships and communities that support your evolving way of being. As you become more comfortable with both strength and vulnerability, you may find yourself drawn to people and groups that value authenticity, mutual support, and emotional intelligence. These new connections can provide models for healthier relationship dynamics. Remember that relationship changes take time and patience from everyone involved. Just as you're learning new ways of being, the people in your life are learning new ways of relating to you. Some adjustments will happen quickly and smoothly, while others may take months or even years to fully develop. Trust the process and stay connected to your own growth, rather than trying to control how others respond to your changes. Your job is to become more authentic and whole, not to manage everyone else's reactions to your authenticity. The relationships that are meant to support your growth will adapt and flourish, while those that aren't may naturally fall away. The people who truly love and value you want to know your full self, not just the strong and independent parts. As you learn to share more of who you are, including your struggles, uncertainties, and needs, you give others the gift of deeper connection with the real you. Integrating a healthier relationship with pride into your daily life requires conscious practice and gentle persistence. Like Elena learning to weave collaboration into her daily woodworking practice, you'll be developing new habits and responses that honor both your strength and your humanity. This isn't about becoming a different person. It's about expressing your full self more skillfully throughout your regular activities and interactions. Begin each day with a brief intention-setting practice that acknowledges both your capabilities and your openness to connection. This might be as simple as taking 3 conscious breaths and saying to yourself, "Today I will honor my strength and my willingness to be supported. I will offer my gifts and remain open to receiving gifts from others." This daily reminder helps orient your nervous system toward both independence and interdependence. Morning rituals can be particularly powerful for setting the tone of integration. Instead of immediately moving into problem-solving mode or planning how you'll handle everything alone, take a moment to consider, what support might be available to me today? Who might I connect with? What might I learn from others? This doesn't replace your natural competence. It supplements it with conscious openness. Throughout your workday, practice small experiments in collaboration and vulnerability. Instead of immediately having all the answers in meetings, try saying, "That's an interesting perspective," or I'd like to think about that before responding. Instead of taking on every task yourself, experiment with delegating one small item to someone else. Instead of always being the one who offers solutions, occasionally ask for others' input on challenges you're facing. Notice your automatic responses in professional interactions and gently expand them. When someone offers to help with a project, pause before immediately declining. When someone asks how you're doing, occasionally share something real rather than always saying fine or busy but good. When someone compliments your work, practice simply saying thank you rather than deflecting or minimizing the praise. Create what therapists call micro-practices, tiny changes you can make throughout the day that support your integration process. This might be taking one extra breath before responding when someone offers help, or making eye contact when accepting assistance, or saying, I appreciate your support. When someone does something kind for you. In social situations, practice being present with others rather than constantly monitoring your own performance. Instead of always being on and entertaining or supporting everyone else, allow yourself to simply be a participant in conversations and activities. Notice what it feels like to receive attention and care from others rather than always directing it toward them. Experiment with different levels of sharing in various contexts. You don't need to be equally vulnerable with everyone, but you can practice appropriate levels of authenticity in different relationships. With close friends, you might share a struggle you're working through. With colleagues, you might admit when you don't know something. With family members, you might express appreciation for their support. Develop evening practices that help you integrate the day's experiences with pride and vulnerability. This might involve reflecting on moments when you chose collaboration over pure independence, when you showed uncertainty rather than false confidence, or when you accepted support rather than handling everything alone. Celebrate these moments of growth, even if they felt uncomfortable at the time. Pay attention to your energy levels throughout the day as you practice new ways of being. You may discover that allowing others to support you actually gives you more energy rather than depleting it. Conversely, you might notice that always being the strong one is more exhausting than you realized. This information helps you understand the true cost and benefit of different approaches. Practice what psychologists call cognitive flexibility, the ability to see situations from multiple perspectives. When facing challenges, instead of immediately defaulting to, I'll handle this myself, pause and consider what other approaches might be possible. Who might have helpful perspective on this? How might collaboration enhance rather than complicate this situation? Create daily opportunities for both giving and receiving. Instead of only offering support to others, actively look for moments when you can gracefully receive help, compliments, or care. This might be as simple as letting someone hold a door for you, accepting a colleague's offer to grab you coffee, or allowing a friend to listen to something you're working through. Notice how your relationship with mistakes and imperfection evolves throughout your days. Instead of immediately trying to fix or hide errors, practice acknowledging them simply and directly. Instead of needing to prove your competence when you don't know something, experiment with curiosity and learning. These daily practices help your nervous system learn that imperfection doesn't threaten your fundamental worth or others' respect. Develop what mindfulness teachers call gap awareness, noticing the small spaces between stimulus and response, where you can choose how to react. When someone offers help, there's a tiny moment before you automatically say, I've got it, or you can pause and consider whether accepting might actually serve you better. These gaps are where conscious choice lives. Build regular check-ins with trusted people into your weekly routine. This might be a standing coffee date with a friend where you practice sharing what's really going on in your life, or a weekly call with a family member where you allow them to support you emotionally. These structured opportunities for vulnerability help you build the muscle of interdependence. Practice what Buddhists call beginner's mind in familiar situations. Instead of always needing to be the expert or the one with answers, occasionally approach situations with curiosity and openness to learning. This might mean asking questions in areas where you usually have strong opinions, or admitting when you're genuinely uncertain about something. Create environmental cues that remind you of your integration practice. This might be a small object on your desk that reminds you to pause before immediately taking on every task, or a note in your phone that prompts you to consider who might support you with current challenges. These external reminders help make internal change more concrete. End each day with appreciation for both your accomplishments and the support you received from others. Instead of only acknowledging what you achieved independently, also recognize moments when others contributed to your success, when their perspective enhanced your thinking, or when their care sustained you through difficulties. Notice seasonal patterns in your relationship with pride and vulnerability. You might find that certain times of year, certain types of stress, or certain life circumstances make you more defensive or more open. Understanding these patterns helps you anticipate when you might need extra support for your integration practice. Remember that daily life application is about progress, not perfection. Some days you'll remember to pause before automatically handling everything alone, and other days you'll fall back into old patterns. Some interactions will feel natural and easy, while others will feel awkward or uncomfortable. All of this is normal and part of the learning process. The goal isn't to become someone who never experiences protective pride or who always chooses vulnerability over independence. The goal is to develop conscious choice about when and how you engage your various capabilities. Like Elena learning to choose between solo work and collaboration based on what each project needed. You're developing the wisdom to respond to each situation with the approach that serves you and others best. Your daily life becomes a laboratory for practicing new ways of being, a place where you can experiment with both strength and softness, both independence and interdependence, both giving and receiving. Each day offers fresh opportunities to honor your capabilities while also embracing your humanity. As we begin to draw this gentle journey to a close, take a moment to appreciate the profound exploration you've undertaken tonight. Like Elena standing back to admire the beautiful community center she helped create, a structure that was both individually excellent and collectively magnificent, you've examined the intricate architecture of your own protective pride with courage, curiosity, and compassion. You've discovered that pride isn't simply an obstacle to overcome or a character flaw to eliminate. Instead, you've come to understand it as a sophisticated protective system that developed for wise reasons, served important purposes, and continues to hold valuable insights about your strength, capability, and dignity. This understanding itself is a form of integration, seeing your protective patterns not as enemies, but as parts of yourself that deserve appreciation and conscious collaboration. Throughout tonight's exploration, you've learned that the question isn't whether to be proud or humble, independent or connected, strong or vulnerable. The wisdom lies in developing the flexibility to choose your response based on what each situation truly calls for, rather than being automatically driven by protective patterns that were formed in different circumstances. You've seen how Elena's transformation didn't require her to abandon her woodworking mastery or become dependent on others. Instead, she learned to distinguish between situations that called for her individual excellence and situations where collaborative excellence could create something even more beautiful. Similarly, your journey is about expanding your range of responses, not limiting them. The three core beliefs we explored about needing others, creating vulnerability, showing weakness, diminishing respect, and worth being conditional on strength aren't completely false. They contain threads of truth about how the world sometimes works. The limitation isn't in recognizing these realities, but in applying them universally rather than discerningly. You've learned that some people and situations may indeed not be safe for vulnerability. Some contexts may require you to maintain professional boundaries and project confidence. Some relationships may not be ready for the full depth of your humanity. The wisdom lies not in being vulnerable everywhere, but in developing the discernment to recognize where vulnerability enhances connection and where protection is genuinely needed. Through the recognition, compassion, and integration phases, you've developed a new relationship with your protective pride. Instead of being unconsciously controlled by it, you're learning to work with it consciously. Instead of fighting against it, you're appreciating its positive intentions while helping it understand that your current circumstances may offer more safety and support than it originally believed. You've discovered that true strength isn't about never needing others. It's about knowing when you need others and having the courage to reach out. Real competence isn't about having all the answers. It's about knowing how to find answers, including the wisdom that others can offer. Genuine worth isn't conditional on perfect performance. It's inherent in your existence as a conscious, loving, growing human being. The body-based practices you've learned help you recognize that. Transformation happens not just in your mind, but in your nervous system, your posture, your breathing, and your physical presence in the world. Your body holds the memory of old protections and the capacity for new experiences of safety and connection. The relationship changes you've explored remind you that healing happens in connection with others, not in isolation from them. As you've become more willing to show your authentic self, including your uncertainties and needs, you've likely discovered that the people who truly care about you welcome this authenticity rather than rejecting it. The daily life applications help you understand that integration is an ongoing practice, not a one-time achievement. Each day offers fresh opportunities to choose consciousness over automaticity, flexibility over rigidity, appropriate response over protective reaction. Perhaps most importantly, you've learned that you don't have to choose between being the strong, capable person you've always been and being someone who can receive support and show vulnerability. You can be both. You can honor your individual excellence while also embracing collaborative excellence. You can maintain your dignity while also allowing intimacy. You can be proud of your capabilities while also being humble enough to learn and grow. This integration of apparent opposites, strength and softness, independence and interdependence, confidence and curiosity, represents a mature understanding of what it means to be fully human. It's the wisdom that Elena discovered when she learned that her individual mastery became even more beautiful when it was shared with others who were equally committed to excellence. Your protective pride has been a faithful companion on your journey through life. It has helped you develop real strengths, navigate genuine challenges, and maintain your sense of dignity in difficult circumstances. Tonight's work isn't about abandoning this companion, but about helping it evolve from an automatic bodyguard into a conscious advisor present when needed, but not controlling every interaction. As you rest here now, breathing softly and allowing these insights to settle into your being, you can feel proud, genuinely proud of the courage it has taken to examine these patterns with such honesty and compassion. You can appreciate both the person you've been and the person you're becoming. You can honor your journey of growth while also accepting yourself exactly as you are in this moment. Now, as the night embraces you with its gentle darkness, it's time to allow your conscious mind to rest while your deeper wisdom continues the integration work we've begun together. Like Elena's hands that continued to understand wood grain even while she slept, your unconscious mind will continue processing tonight's insights, weaving them into the fabric of your being in ways that conscious effort could never achieve. Let yourself settle even more deeply into whatever surface is supporting you. Feel the weight of your body being held completely, requiring no effort from you to maintain your position. Notice how your body knows exactly how to rest, how to breathe, how to begin the natural process of restoration and renewal that happens every time you sleep. Your conscious mind has done beautiful work tonight, examining patterns, developing, understanding, creating new possibilities for how you might move through the world. Now it's time to let that conscious effort soften, like Elena setting down her tools at the end of a productive day in the workshop, trusting that tomorrow will bring fresh opportunities to apply what she's learned. As you begin to release the base thoughts and concerns, imagine that all the insights from tonight's exploration are settling into your being like gentle snow, each understanding finding its perfect place in the landscape of your inner world. You don't need to hold on to these insights with your conscious mind. They're becoming part of you in ways that are deeper than thinking, more lasting than memory. Allow your breathing to find its own natural rhythm without any effort to control or direct it. Notice how your body breathes you, how your heart beats you, how your entire system knows how to sustain and restore itself without any conscious management. This is the same wisdom that will integrate tonight's learning automatic, natural, perfectly calibrated to your needs. Feel appreciation flowing through your body for all the ways your protective pride has served you throughout your life. Like a loyal friend who has walked beside you through countless challenges, it deserves your gratitude. Send this appreciation into every cell of your being, acknowledging the intelligence and dedication of your protective systems. At the same time, feel appreciation for your willingness to grow, to examine old patterns with fresh eyes, to consider new possibilities for how you might relate to yourself and others. This openness to change, this courage to evolve, is a beautiful expression of your deepest nature. Imagine that as you sleep tonight, Elena's story continues to unfold in your unconscious mind. See her in her workshop, now flowing easily between solo work and collaboration, choosing her approach based on wisdom rather than fear. Watch as she enjoys both the satisfaction of individual mastery and the joy of shared creation. Feel how her relationships have deepened, how her craft has expanded, how her life has become richer through embracing both independence and interdependence. Let Elena's journey become a template for your own healing, a gentle guide for how transformation can honor the past while embracing new possibilities. You don't need to remember her story consciously. Let it become part of your dream world, where symbols and metaphors work their magic below the level of rational thought. As your mind begins to drift towards sleep, repeat these gentle affirmations to yourself, feeling their truth in your body rather than just thinking them. I am whole exactly as I am. I honor both my strength and my humanity. I choose my responses from wisdom rather than automatic protection. I am worthy of both giving and receiving love. Feel these truths settling into your nervous system, becoming part of your cellular memory, integrating at levels deeper than conscious belief. Your body is absorbing these new understandings like earth absorbing gentle rain, allowing them to nourish new growth in their own time. Imagine roots of security and self-worth growing deep into the earth beneath you, anchoring you in the knowledge of your inherent value. At the same time, imagine branches of openness and connection reaching toward the sky, ready to touch and be touched by others when the moment is right. You are both rooted and reaching, both grounded and growing. Let any remaining tension from the day dissolve like sugar in warm water, sweetening your whole being with relaxation and peace. Your shoulders can release completely, knowing they don't need to carry the weight of the world. Your jaw can soften, releasing any need to clench against uncertainty. Your forehead can smooth, letting go of any urgency to figure everything out. Tonight, feel your entire body settling into the embrace of rest, trusting in your innate capacity for healing and growth. Sleep is not an escape from your life. It's a sacred time when your deeper wisdom works on your behalf, reorganizing patterns, integrating experiences, preparing you for tomorrow's opportunities to live more consciously and lovingly. As you hover in that beautiful space between waking and sleeping, know that you are held by forces much larger and wiser than your individual will. The same intelligence that turns seeds into flowers, that heals cuts on your skin, that beats your heart without your conscious effort, is also working to integrate tonight's learning into your being. You are part of an ancient tradition of humans who have learned to balance strength with tenderness, independence with connection, confidence with humility. This wisdom is encoded in your very DNA, passed down through countless generations of ancestors who learned to navigate the complex dance between self-reliance and community. Let yourself feel connected to this vast lineage of human beings who have grappled with similar questions, who have found ways to be both strong and vulnerable, both individual and connected. You are not alone in this journey. You are part of the eternal human quest to live with both courage and love. As sleep claims you gently, completely, know that you will wake tomorrow with deeper access to your full range of human capacities. You will be the same person you've always been, but with expanded options for how to express your strength, your dignity, your love, and your humanity. Rest now, beautiful soul. Let the night work its quiet magic on your behalf. Let your dreams weave together all the threads of tonight's exploration into a tapestry of greater wholeness and wisdom. Sleep comes naturally, peacefully, healing all that needs healing, integrating all that needs integrating, preparing you to meet tomorrow with both pride in who you are and openness to who you're becoming. Sweet dreams, dear one. Sweet, restorative, transformative dreams.